Nobody else of any note. There was one, an ex-Spaniard.
Oh, the Mr. Vincent.
Yes.
Vincent.
And his son's now big.
He's very active in the Holocaust. You see,
Yeah.
they have the Holocaust every year. They roll it out,
Yeah.
and it's just become like an event. But the actual meaning to it, what are they doing about it?
Yeah.
Like Liberation, remember Liberation Day? Yes, but what are you doing about it? Because obviously human rights always. Well, where are the human rights?
Yeah, quite right.
You see?
That's right. Well, I don't pay any attention to it. I bowl through Liberation Battle of Britain Day. I used to organise it, for Christ's sake.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I took over from. That's another story. When I was in around about 1990, I got to know. I don't know which way it happened. Whether Sam Sennett.
Oh, right, yeah, Sam Sennett.
He used to run the jewellery place. Photography place, that's right. In about 90, we got to know Sam and Rita very well, Ed and I. We became friends. Now, he was a member of the RFA, and I had not joined the RFA ever since I left the Air Force after a 3-year stint in 1957. I had to join. I had to become a regular in order to get. Oh, that's another story. I was a high-flying O-level kid, nine O-levels without worrying about it, to the point where I didn't worry about A-level studying at all. Played table tennis for 3 years in the back room at the school I was at. But I was a member of the ATC, the Air Training Corps, at the grammar school in Essex, where I was pretty senior. They gave me I was a flight sergeant or some bloody thing. And as such, I got selected for a trip to America, representing the British Air Force cadets, in effect, and Navy cadets were involved as well.
Was it a uniform job?
We wore a uniform to America. The trip to America was something else. Down at the Azores, you couldn't do it all in one trip. You know, the old banger which rattled its way across the Atlantic.
What did you fly in? What was it?
It wasn't the Dakota. It was a step up from the DAC.
4-engine, that DC.
Yeah, the early DC thing, the 4-engine thing. And whilst there, we stayed in New York for 3 or 4 days. And then we were sort of parceled out to the households of various American Air Force generals as their guests.
Really?
Yeah. I remember sitting around the table at this place. I had bad acne as a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid. 18 I was at this point. And so very self-conscious about it. And I'm sitting with this American Air Force, he was Air Force General, I think. He was a senior there, and his family around their table having dinner. And both his teenage kids already had pilot's licenses. Each had their own airplane. we had absolutely zero. I mean, we were a pretty poor family. And the father doted on Churchill. He was the hero. This man's big hero, and he was drilling me about Churchill's history and what happened here and there. And I knew absolutely bloody nothing to tell him when he was most disappointed. You could see his disappointment on his face. And I remember the kids invited me out to one of their parties, and their parties were girls, and take her in the back room and screw it quick. You know, I mean, there was no messing about. The kids were into full adult sort of mode at that point, and I was a total virgin. And
fancy American cars.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew nothing about it, so I was totally out of my depth. Anyway, I survived that and came back, and then had to go into the Air Force, do my national service. Having failed, the old man called me into when I got my A-level grades. And you remember in those days there used to be 1 was 90% and 9 was 10%. I had 2 8s and a 9 and a 5.
Wow.
I got a 5 for maths. I just scraped maths, but failed the others. So science, chemistry, physics, abysmally. The old man had given up a promotion in order to keep me at the school to do that. See, so he called me into the front room. He said, "I can't." He said something to the effect, "I can't disguise how disappointed I am in you. What do we do now?" So he said, "You've got to go." You know, national service was still in being. So what do you do now? So I said, "Well, I've got to do my national service." Obviously, he said, "Well, look, I can do one last thing for you, but you've got to promise me something." So I said, "What's that?" He said, "I can get you onto a fitter's course, which is 9 months long.
Right.
But you can't do that as a national serviceman. You've got to sign on for at least 3 years. Will you do that?" I said, "Yep, I'll do that." He said, "Well, the other thing you've got to promise is you've got to pass the course." Because I've got to swear that you will pass the course because you need the A-level qualifications to get on the course, which you haven't got.
Okay.
So he swung that one for me. So I went in the Air Force for 3 years and went to this course. It was full of A-level students and failed A-level students like me. And we sat down, first lesson, and the man drew a valve on the board. Not many of us knew what the hell he was talking about. It was the basis of all the electronics, the valve at the time. So he said, "Right, this is a valve." He said, "Now, at the end of this course, there's an exam at the end of every week. In order to stay on the course, you've got to pass the exam. 50%, that is." I think I got 15, 20, and I wasn't alone.
Oh, no.
About half the class got less than 50. So they changed the rules slightly. So that went on. I gradually got more and more. I wasn't. If I applied myself, I could learn these things, but I hated it all my life. Anyway, finally we carried on, and I finally, at the end of 9 months, passed the course. By that time, I'd been in the Air Force 9 months. And what do you do now? We were, myself and one other survivor of that course, were posted off to Germany because the Air Force was still flying up and down the border, trying to present these German and Russian fighters invading. You know, Germany was about to fall back to the Russians at any time. And this is in 1959, 58, 59. And came out of that at the end of 59. What to do for your life? By that time I'd married. We were just married, and so the BBC was recruiting. So I went up to London to take the interview. As far as I was concerned, did pathetically at the interview. But I got the job on the basis of my Air Force work, you see. I mean, and...
Your dad's still alive?
Oh, he was still alive then, yeah. He was happy. I was doing something that I'd been trained for, and that was fine. But I did my back in, lying on the bed with my back in traction when the list of available, presuming you passed your C course in the BBC, that's qualified engineer, BBC engineer, C course. That was another thing I got 53% at. I just passed. And he said, there was a list, Mad was with me, and she said, the BBC had posts all over the world that you could select to go. They were posts free. I could have gone to Ascension Island, for example. It was not far off the top of the list. Where do you want to go? So I actually picked somewhere up in Scotland for some daft reason that I can't remember now. There was a good reason for it. But second...
The salmon fishing, I expect.
Yeah. Well, no, I wasn't a fisherman. But Jersey was second on the list, and that's where I got sent. Came here, Matt and I, in September 60, and found the place, immediately reacted to its feudal nature, and there we go. Normal rock 6 years later, and off I went. You have the basis of my life.
Is that a successful life?
I'm content with it. But the big thing that happened in my life has happened since then. We discovered not religion. I'm not going to throw religion at you. A lot of people have, but we discovered TM, Transcendental Meditation.
Oh, really?
Which certainly saved our marriage.
Really?
The man was really stressed. She was a high-class teacher at the time, and stressed out of her mind. But we both started to meditate. The teacher was over here, learned over here, and it has saved our marriage. And I'm a different man.
Really?
Completely different man, as a result of regular practice. We've practiced. I'll go up now. We'll meditate for half an hour. We do twice a day.
I wish I could.
Yeah.
We're going to stop there.
But, you know,
Issues might arise. If I want to come back, I hope you'll invite me to come back.
you're welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Jimmy Johns.